let's now start developing the controller. So we're going to actually see whenever you click on a button on the GUI components, we want to make sure there is a block of code, namely a method, to be attached to that particular button. Especially, we want to make sure when we click on the increments, there should be a specific block of code, a method, to be attached to it. And also for decrements and also for reset. And we're going to define in total 3 separate methods that will be associated with these 3 separate buttons. So let's do the controller. Start with developing the code first, and then we'll see that later on we're going to connect the controller to the model. Let's first of all connect the controller to the view. Okay. So now you can see that we already got multiple buttons activity.java. If you cannot see it, go under app, go under Java, and go under ECS 1022 multiple buttons and the multiple buttons activity Java class over here. Okay, so we already have this onCreate method here. We're going to modify this class this method here slightly a little bit later when we connect to the model. But for now, we're just going to recall that from the previous tutorial series, we learned about different private helper methods for us to retrieve the GUI components. And for this particular example here, we're just going to reuse the helper method for displaying the result for the counter value. So I'm just going to copy and paste for this tutorial, but you can just go back to your previous lab exercise and copy and paste the relevant helper methods. So the one I'm going to need will be this set contents of text view. Okay, so you can see that as soon as I copy and paste this code to Android Studio, it's kind of ask me if this really text view I really refer to. So I just want to make sure this is properly imported to my class. So over here, it's suggesting that I can just say auto and then enter. Okay, so now text view has been imported. Okay, and you can see text views here, and then also for the view. Okay, in case you don't have the auto enter option for you, you can simply just do this. Okay, we want the view over here, VIEW, and then you can see that Android.view. Use the code completion, it will complete the code for you as well. Okay, so this helper method here is nothing new. We have used them before in the BMI tutorial and in other exercises. Okay, so now I'm going to define 4 different methods, and each one of them will be attached for the on-click attributes for the relevant GUI components. Okay, so now let's say this. Eventually, I know that I'm gonna have one method for this, for that, and for that. So I'm gonna have 3 of them. So I can say, for example, this can be called button increment clicked, and this can be called decrement button decrement clicked, and this can be button reset clicked. Okay, let's make the convention here. Okay, so now let's go back here. So remember to define that, we just say public void button increments clicked. And then remember, in order to actually register this method here for that particular GUI button, you have to make sure you really have view as one of the parameter, as the only parameter. Okay. Okay, we will fill in the implementation over here a little bit later as soon as we are done with the model in the next video. Okay, let's do the same thing for the other 2 methods. Let's make some comments over here. So you can say this method will be registered to the button with the ID. So let's double check. Okay, the ID will be, remember for increments, the ID is button increments. Okay, so now we'll say button increments. Okay, just make some comments for ourselves. Okay, I'm just going to do some copy and paste because the other 2, the header for the method will be very similar. Okay, this method will be registered to the button decrements. Okay, I'm just change this to decrements. And also, the method should be decrements, button decrement clicked. And then you can see that we still need to keep this parameter over here. Okay, and one more. We have to do for the button reset. Okay, so over here, the method will be registered to the button reset. Okay, and then button reset over here. And let's also double check that on the GUI component there, we really have these two IDs. Okay, so go back to the GUI part, and then this is button increments over here. And then for decrement here, we really have button decrements. And for this button here, we do have button reset. Okay, so now you can see that as soon as we actually declare these three methods, although their bodies are empty at the moment, but we can already register them. Okay, so later on, whenever we change the body of implementation, their effects will be reflected right away. Okay, let's go back to our XML file. First of all, let's go to increment over here, and then we should really look for the on-click attributes. Okay, so now for increment over here, so we should go for the on-click. Okay, so now we can click on over here, the drop-down menu here, you can see button increment clicked. Okay, we can choose that over here. Okay, that's done. And then we go to decrement here, and also for the on-click attribute, we choose button decrement clicked. Okay, and now for reset, we also choose the corresponding method over here. We'll choose button reset clicked. Okay, if you're using a different version of Android Studio, you should still be able to find on click. May not be immediately available there. You may have to go for view other attributes to go through the attribute, but the attribute name should be on clicked. Okay, so far we actually have. So far for the controller, we are not completely finished yet, but we actually have done the stuff that can be done before we do the model. So we have done this particular helper method, which will let us set the contents of the text view, which will be over here. Okay, the text view at the bottom over here. We'll do that later when we connect the model. And then also we define three methods over here. Each one of them has exactly this particular parameter of type view. And then we register them to the on-click attributes of the corresponding GUI components. Namely, we register these three buttons over here. Okay. Of course, if you simply just launch the app and then try to click on each of these three buttons here, you wouldn't see anything, because the bodies of implementation for these three methods are simply just empty. Okay. So what we will do in the next video is we're going to define our model, namely a counter class, and see what methods we can support for that particular counter. And in the video following that, we're going to see how we can connect the controller and also the model.